The phone call came on a Tuesday, a little after 4. A cheerful voice from Coldwell Realty, congratulating me on the sale of the house on Miller Road. She wanted to confirm the closing date. I remember standing in my kitchen with the phone against my ear, watching the coffee I just poured go cold, because none of it made sense. My mother's house was not for sale. My mother was in a memory. Hi, I'm Ethan Cole, and this is Ethan After Dark, where I tell stories of betrayal, family secrets, revenge, and sweet justice. Now back to the story. Care facility 20 minutes away, and I was the one who paid her bills, mowed that lawn every other Saturday, and kept her hydrangeas alive because she'd once told me a house with dead flowers looks like nobody loves it. I told the realtor there had to be a mistake. She laughed, polite and confused, and said, "Sir, I've got the signed listing agreement right here. Daniel Witt." "Oh, I'm sorry. Are you not Daniel?" "No, I'm not Daniel. Daniel is my older brother." And that was the moment I understood that while I'd been spoon-feeding our mother applesauce on Sunday afternoons, my brother had been quietly selling the ground out from under her. Let me back up, because you need to know this family to understand what happened next. The house on Miller Road was my grandfather's before it was my mother's. He built the porch himself in 1961, the summer my mother was born, and every important thing that ever happened to us happened within earshot of that porch. Dad proposed to Mom on it. I broke my arm falling off the railing when I was 9, and after Dad died, Mom sat out there every single evening with her tea, waving at neighbors, holding the whole street together like a stitch. Danny left town at 19 and came back only when he needed something. That sounds harsh, so let me be fair. He was charming, funny, the kind of guy who could make Mom laugh until she cried, and for the first 30 years of my life I would have told you I loved him more than anyone. He'd blow in twice a year with gifts and stories, stay 4 days and leave. I was the one who stayed. Nobody makes movies about the one who stays. Mom's diagnosis came 5 years ago. It started small. She called me by my uncle's name, put her keys in the freezer, got lost driving home from the church she'd attended for 40 years. Alzheimer's doesn't kick the door down. Picks the lock, slowly, and takes one photograph off the wall at a time. For 3 years I managed everything from a folder on my kitchen table. Then it got beyond me and the doctor said she needed full-time care, and I found her the best facility I could, the kind of place that costs more per month than my mortgage. I called Danny and told him, and here's where I made my mistake. When he flew in that week and said, "Let me take something off your plate, little brother. I'll handle the legal and financial stuff, you handle Mom." I was so tired that I said yes. I was grateful. I actually thanked him. He took Mom to a lawyer I'd never heard of, in a strip mall 2 towns over, and came back with a power of attorney naming him as her agent. She was already 2 years past diagnosis. On her good days you'd never know. On her bad days she thought I was her brother Gerald, dead since 1988. I asked Danny if the lawyer had checked whether she understood what she was signing. He clapped me on the shoulder and said, "Relax. It was one of her good days." For a while nothing happened. He paid a few bills from her account. I could see the statements, and I went back to my Sundays with Mom, walking her through photo albums, reintroducing her to her own life 1 page at a time. Then the facility called. Her payment had bounced. 2 months behind. Then the tax notice came to my address, because I was still listed for mail. Property taxes on Miller Road, unpaid. And then the realtor called to congratulate me. I drove to the house that evening. There was a lockbox on my grandfather's front door and a sign in the yard between the hydrangeas. I stood there in the driveway and I want to be honest with you about what I felt, because it wasn't sadness. It was a cold, clarifying stillness. My hands stopped shaking. Some people get loud when they're betrayed. I get quiet, and I've learned that quiet is worth more. Because here's the thing about being the one who stays, the one who handles paperwork, the boring brother with the folder on the kitchen table. I read documents. All of them. And 11 years earlier, when Grandpa was dying, I was the one who sat with him and his lawyer while Danny was on a beach somewhere. I remembered something from those meetings. I remembered it the way you remember a fire extinguisher. You don't think about it for years, but you know exactly where it hangs. The house on Miller Road was never Mom's to sell, and that meant it was never Danny's either. Grandpa had put the house into an irrevocable trust in 1989, after watching his own sister lose her home to a con man. The trust let my mother live there for life. The lawyers call it a life estate, but the house itself belonged to the trust, and on Mom's passing it was to go to his grandchildren. Both of us, Danny and me. And the successor trustee, the person with legal authority over the trust when Mom became incapacitated, was named on page 6. It was me. Grandpa's exact words to me, in that room with the oxygen tank clicking, were, "Danny's got charm enough for 2 men. That's why it has to be you." So the power of attorney Danny had, even if it was valid, and I had real doubts about that, was worthless for this. A power of attorney lets you act for a person. It doesn't let you sell what that person never owned. Here's what I didn't do. I didn't call Danny. I didn't scream, didn't post anything, didn't tell a single relative. If I'd blown up that night, better in front of an audience. Instead, the next morning I took a personal day, put on the suit I wear to funerals, and did what boring brothers do best. I gathered paper. I got a certified copy of the trust from the county records office, where Grandpa's lawyer had recorded it like the careful man he was. I got the deed, which showed the trust as owner, plain as daylight, for anyone who'd bothered to look. The lawyer Danny used never bothered. Neither did Danny. He'd found Mom's old file box, seen the house papers, and assumed. Charm doesn't read past the first page. Then I hired Elena Marsh, an elder law attorney with a handshake like a bolt cutter, and I told her everything. She listened, flipped through my folder, and said the 9 most satisfying words I'd heard in years. "He has no idea what's about to happen, does he?" But first, she said, "We follow the money because the house was only the loudest theft. We subpoenaed nothing, we didn't need to. As successor trustee and as Mom's other child, I petitioned the court for an accounting, and Elena requested 18 months of statements from the account Danny controlled. It took 5 weeks to get them. I read them at my kitchen table, at the same spot where I used to do Mom's bills, and I'm not ashamed to tell you I cried. $41,000. Cash withdrawals, transfers to an online sports book, 2 casino ATMs in one night, a $1,400 steakhouse bill. While Mom's care payments bounced. While the woman who taught him to ride a bike wore socks I bought her because he'd stopped paying for incidentals. My brother wasn't evil, Elena told me. She'd seen this 100 times. Gambling debt is a fire, and desperate men will burn anything, including their mother's house, to put it out. Maybe so. But I've noticed the fire never seems to burn the things they own. The closing was scheduled for a Friday morning at the title company's office. Danny flew in Thursday night. He even called me. First time in months. Breezy as ever. "Hey, little brother. In town for a couple days. Let's get a beer Saturday." Saturday. After the money hit his account. I said, "Sure, Saturday," and my voice was so calm it frightened me a little. He walked into that closing at 9 in the morning with his airport coffee and his easy smile. Sat down across from the buyer's people, ready to sign away my grandfather's porch. And at 9:05, the title officer cleared her throat and said the sale couldn't proceed, because the title search, completed at the request of the trustee's attorney, showed the property was owned by the Harold J. Whitfield Family Trust, that the seller had no authority whatsoever, and that any attempt to convey it could constitute fraud. Then Elena, sitting quietly at the end of the table in a gray suit, slid a folder across to my brother. The petition for the accounting, the trust, the bank statements with $41,000 of his life highlighted in yellow, and a letter from me as trustee. I wasn't in the room. I thought about it for 2 weeks. I wanted to be there the way you want to press a bruise. Elena talked me out of it, and she was right. Let him sit there alone with the paper, she said. Paper doesn't blink. He called me 19 times that day. The messages went from confused to furious to, by midnight, something I'd never heard from Danny in my whole life. Small. The last one just said, Please call me back. Please. I let him wait the weekend. He'd made Mom's checks bounce for 2 months. He could survive 2 days of silence. Monday, we met at a diner with Elena's terms typed on 1 page. No police, no fraud referral, no lawsuit. Mom would have hated a courtroom with her sons on opposite sides. And honestly, watching him be convicted wouldn't buy her 1 more day of good care. Instead, he'd sign a confession of judgment for the full $41,000 plus the missed facility payments. He'd repay it on a schedule, starting with the truck he'd bought during those 18 months. The power of attorney would be revoked that day and replaced by mine. And his inheritance under the trust would be reduced by every dollar he didn't pay back, with the math done in front of a judge if he ever missed twice. He read it, and for once in his life my brother didn't perform. He looked old. He said, "You could have sent me to prison." I said, "Grandpa didn't build that porch so his grandsons could take turns destroying each other." "Sign it." He signed. Danny sold the truck within the month. He's 11 payments in as I tell you this, and he's never missed one. He calls Mom's facility every Sunday now. The nurses tell me he actually talks to her, reads her the sports page, which she doesn't follow and never did, but she likes the sound of a voice that's trying. Maybe fear made him decent. Maybe losing everything but a payment plan finally introduced my brother to gravity. I don't fully forgive him, but forgiveness, like interest, can accrue slowly. The house on Miller Road wasn't sold. A young family rents it now through the trust, and the rent covers a solid piece of Mom's care, which is precisely what my grandfather built that trust to do 36 years ago, for reasons he could never have named but somehow knew anyway. Careful men see around corners. It's the closest thing to magic I've ever witnessed. Last month, I took Mom back to the house for an afternoon. The renters were kind about it. She walked the porch rail with her fingertips the way you'd touch a piano you used to play, and for about 90 seconds, the doctors call them windows, she came all the way back. She looked at the hydrangeas, then at me and said, "Your grandfather always said this porch would outlast the both of his grandsons' foolishness." Then the window closed, and she asked if I was Gerald. "No, Mom. I'm the one who stayed, and the porch is still yours. And that's the end of this one. If it kept you up, do me one favor, hit subscribe. I tell a new story every single night, and I'd love to have you back. Good night."